Okay, so you all are taking pedology at an interesting time. How many of you know somebody who took this class last year? Does anybody know anyone who took it before last year, 2 years ago, or just last year? So to give you a little bit of context, my name is Paul. First of all, I'm a grad student in the soil science department. I'm studying for my PhD right now. I'm not a professor. I'm not a doctor. So you can just call me Paul. For many, many years, for decades, this class was taught by a man named Maynard Bosberg. He's the guy that's responsible for pretty much all of the soil monoliths preserved on the wall in the Ag Science building. He had a really extremely long career in pedology, specialized in the North Idaho soils, and left a great legacy for this department. He retired in 1989, maybe 1990s, only just died in 2020 at the age of 101 years old, I think. After him, we had an actual pedologist. His name was Paul McDaniel, international acclaimed pedologist, known as Dr. Andesol to some, really influential in first characterizing, the soil order that is really important to us in Idaho, the Andesols. He was the pedology instructor here for about 30 years, I think, until he retired in 2018. So starting in 2018, our department tried to hire another professor, a pedologist, who would teach this course, and this would be their specialty. It didn't really happen. In the meantime, our department head, her name was Jody, was filling in. Jody's an excellent soil scientist. She taught this class for many years, intervening. Only a year and a half ago, she took a new job, got promoted at the University of Georgia, great new job, and she moved away. So that still leaves no true pedologist here teaching this class. And so it falls to me, if Jody was teaching as like a backup option, now they have a grad student as the backup to a backup. What does that make me? Some third string instructor, probably the least qualified instructor in the soil science department to teach a class? Some might say. But I don't say. I think I'm the most qualified instructor in the soil science department because I love this more than anything. It's an opinion I have maybe about maybe our department, maybe beyond, that we've lost sight of like the mission of our university. It's students first. It's not research. It's not publishing. The little ding, ding, ding in a bunch of professors' brains is when they do their research and they publish and they put another line on their CV, and they teach because they have to. And that's such a strong opinion that I have is faculty that teach because they have to. It's like they lost sight of our land grant university's mission. It's like they lost sight of why they love their field in the first place. And I love soil more than anything. I think about everything it's given to me, the opportunities to be here in grad school right now, the places I've been, and the people I met. And now I have this opportunity to share this with you guys. And I love this more than anything. So I think my passion is my number one qualification to be here teaching. I do have some more tangible ones, you could say. While Jody was the instructor for this class, I was the lab TA for 3 years. I've been involved in teaching every semester since I've been here in grad school. This is my 5th year now. And perhaps I know some of you from Soil 206, our intro soils labs. I also coach the soil judging team, which is an extracurricular undergraduate team that involves traveling and doing soil descriptions and interpretations across landscapes like we will do in this class. And I co-teach the North Idaho field trip, all about soils and soil descriptions, as well as some forestry and geology. And of course, I taught this class last fall in full. So I don't expect you guys to love soil as much as I do. I'm a 10 out of 10 on that sheet, for my passion for soil right now. I don't expect you guys to be there. Maybe you will by the end. That would be fun. But I do expect you guys to be curious. To start out curious, at least, how the knowledge of soil formation and soil processes can help you in your careers. How something like an oxyaquic udivitrand can go from complete nonsense words and syllables to telling you pretty much everything you would need to know about a given soil. How the skills we develop on our field trips will help you get hired. And just how beautiful and amazing this world of soil science is. That's my goal for this semester. So, first of all, a little context of how we got here, reasons to be excited about pedology, and more specifically, if we're going to relate these to our course objectives that you could read on the syllabus, we're going to become familiar with the types of soil around Idaho, probably the most relevant to us and all of your careers, but we'll dabble with the US and maybe worldwide soils as well while we're here learning. Our goal is to make thorough, technically accurate descriptions of soil profiles in the field, one of our more tangible skills to fill out a soil description. We want to understand the relationships and feedbacks between soil and their environment, how these soil profiles form, what creates these beautiful soil profiles that we see here. Interpret how soils form, patterns in which they occur on the landscape. So maybe you can travel anywhere else, or as you're driving around at your daily life, you can be thinking like a soil scientist and wondering how the environment around you is going to affect the soil beneath you. We'll be able to make some reasonable estimates of soil chemical and physical properties from field observations. We'll have a working knowledge of soil taxonomy, which is at least how we in the United States classify soil profiles. For some more syllabus content, briefly, you can find me in over in the Ag Science Building, room 149. It's a grad student's office on the first floor, not so far from the Soils Teaching Lab, 133. We are an in-person class, so thank you all for joining here today, with some Zoom flexibility. So we'll have a Zoom running every time we're here in lecture, just about. I'll keep a recording of it. I'm pretty convinced, after my own experience as a student during COVID, post-COVID years, that having Zoom it's just so worth it. You know, I'm gonna miss some classes. I'm sure you all miss some classes. The ability to join remotely, have recordings to look back on, too convenient to not do it, you know, so we'll be doing that. Question?
In case that we do like miss a class or anticipate missing a class, what should we do?
If you expect to miss a class, you can let me know. Lectures, again, won't be that big of a deal because we'll have a recording. If we're going on a field trip, those can be harder to make up. So it's definitely more important to plan ahead if possible.
And what if you have to miss a class? Do we just all do a Zoom?
If I'm going to miss class, I will let you all know ahead of time and could arrange for a guest lecture, perhaps. Could pre-record my lecture content so you just watch the video maybe and don't get together today or on a given day. To be determined. So you're all welcome to join on Zoom if needed. I encourage you all to come and stay engaged. Give me some person-to-person feedback. I would appreciate it here in the lecture room. Wasn't a problem last year, and it's definitely a great convenience for everybody involved. I think that was going. We do have a distance learning option specifically for Twin Falls. You may have noticed on the course calendar, we have 2 sections of pedology, the in-person virtual meeting. That was specifically created for the range department. They have a dual degree program with the College of Southern Idaho in Twin Falls. So I believe we'll have 2 students on virtual this semester. We have a small prerequisite for this class. Soil 205 and 206 are intro soil series. We encourage that more for undergraduate students, which you've all been through. I think it is all undergrads in-person class at least. So you've all been through Soil 205, Soil 206 before. Maybe that's how you know me. Less of a requirement for grad students that take this class. But we can assume they're interested and they're hooked enough on soils anyway that they don't need the intro level. We have a recommended textbook. The first of my 2 prompts right here. It's called Soil Genesis and Classification. It's recommended. I won't be assigning readings out of it or anything. If you consider yourself to be more of a book learner, if you'd rather be reading along as we go, it's a great resource, but I won't be assigning anything out of it or have an expectation that you go buy this book. The info's in the syllabus. It's there if you want it. But I can't recall students in the past ever needing or using the textbook. So I can read in it and give you guys the important info. That's all right with you guys. Is that a good deal? Yeah. The other reason you don't have to buy it is we have really great online resources for free. The University of Idaho ourselves, we have a great series of web pages about all 12 soil orders, which we'll be diving into on the later part of this semester. This field book for describing and sampling soils is a great resource by the NRCS. It's almost like a Bible of important field reference material for soil science. You can order these for free online. I think they're out of stock right now, last I checked. Maybe we're waiting for a reprint new edition, but you can request these online, as well as the Keys to Soil Taxonomy, a much thicker reference book about classifying soil profiles. They're both available online for free as PDFs. You can request your own paper copy also for free. You can find links in the syllabus about that. For grading, how you guys are going to get credit for all the wonderful activities we do and learning we do in pedology. About 600 total points, pretty even distribution between weekly labs. Could be an indoor lab activity, could be a field trip. Approximately weekly Canvas quizzes. We'll start those by next week, if not this week, just to kind of review the content that we work with in lecture, so you get a little more exposure to it before you show up, roll right into a test. You will know a little bit more about what to expect. We'll have 3 tests, one in September, one right before Thanksgiving, and then the 3rd test will be during finals week, covering everything since test 2 and only the most important concepts from the rest of the course that we are going to be working with all semester long. So I would say partially cumulative final, but no deep cuts of specific details from test 1 and 2, only the most important ideas. I think that'll be a Canvas test. We can make more plans later, but I won't keep you around until the Thursday of finals week. We'll have some homework assignments and then your very own soil pit project where you can go out perhaps later in the semester after we get a lot more practice on our own soil pit description field trips. You have the chance to take a kit, take a shovel, and do your own soil pit interpretation anywhere you choose, and then come back and tell us all about it in this final project.
Yeah, so 6 foot in the ground without a clue what you're doing.
It doesn't have to be all the way to 6 feet, but hopefully you will have.
It can be close enough. So
I think you will have a clue about what you're doing by the end. So our lab meetings will be on Thursday afternoons in 133. That's the soil teaching lab. You would have been there for soil 206 in the past. It's on the schedule as 1:30 to 5:20 p.m. I can promise you right now, indoor labs will not last all 4 hours. However, having that much time is useful when we go out traveling on field trips. We will be indoor for the first 3 weeks of lab as we kind of review our fundamental skills. You can see the schedule that I posted online. This Thursday, I call it Lab 0, just an intro, like review of soil texturing. We have at least probably a handful of people on the 253 range field trip. I'm going to say there's no makeup activity for this first week lab. We're going to be just kind of warming up, getting familiar again with soil texturing, on the condition that you guys on the range field trip will think about soil a little bit, maybe pick it up, maybe do a little ribbon test, a little feel for the grittiness. If that sounds reasonable, I won't make you guys come in and make up any activities. You have to think about soil when you're out looking at range. And then the next 2 weeks will be a graded activity as we get to learn our soil morphology, soil descriptions.
There is also the 460 field trip.
Is that going to be
September 4th.
4th through the 8th?
The safe.
No, random courses.
Another rangeland field trip. I don't think that'll be much of a problem. Again, it's the same schedule every year. The other thing is it riparian management is at 4:04, is going to conflict with the labs a little bit. When we're indoors, that's no problem. You can show up after class as normal. If we're going to travel, and I think we're going to need the full time slot, I'll let you guys know, and the instructor over there know. And then maybe it can work to get you guys out of that one. It's only 15 minutes, right? 15-minute conflict. Wasn't a problem at all last year. I don't think it'll be a problem at all this year. For the 460 field trip, I remember the solution we had last year, and you guys will have a chance to make up that lab activity without coming in outside of class. We'll be able to accommodate that pretty easily. Okay, first 3 weeks, at least we're indoors, and then hopefully we'll get out on field trips for 6 of the weeks, depending on the weather. The last one is scheduled for October 31st, so we'll see if the weather holds. We'll see if plans that evening allow for a traveling field trip. But we'll have 2 tests indoors in the lab. We'll just meet in the lab as usual, 1:33. You'll be given the whole entire time, but you won't need it. Most people are done with tests in around an hour. And then 3, I think, are on the schedule right now is TBA or later in the semester. Or no, I put them down as the activities in the work time that we'll do. So those are a little bit flexible currently as well. That is a preview of our syllabus content, our kind of forecast for the semester. Any other questions? What to expect? What we're going to be doing? Yes.
How far out for field trips?
How far out for the field trips?
Follow up to that. And transportation.
Yes, transportation will be provided. We have university 12-passenger vans, the soils department, as well as the CNR motor pool. You know, I know how to use that. So we'll meet in the lab 1:33 every week, even if it's a field trip, and then we can depart from there all together, carpooling. If you need to drive separately to arrive late, to leave early, just let me know. It's easy to accommodate. I'll just have to make sure that you know exactly where we're going, when we're going to be there. Shouldn't be much of a problem. Destinations, though, are a little bit flexible. Maybe I'll plan some new ones for this semester, but most should be within 30 minutes. Some of the later ones are a little more ambitious, are a little more high reward from the soils perspective, I would say. But those might be 45 to an hour drive. They remain possibilities. Like I said, high reward field trips, high value destinations. Anything else for syllabus questions? Oh, I want to look at something new this year. I used to do Zooms just as a regular Zoom app, but there's a new system this year, so Zoom is integrated into Canvas. I'm still learning this myself. So the Zoom link to join, if you need to join a lecture remotely, is in the syllabus. It's in the announcements that I posted recently. You can get it there. And you can also just go to Canvas on this left side menu. There's a Zoom tab. It shows all of our individual meetings, I think. And then in the future, it will show cloud recordings. I think the recordings are just going to show up here. So hopefully that's easier. I had a very difficult time last year setting the permissions every single week so everyone could access the recordings just from like OneDrive. Hopefully this is easier. Let me know, reach out anytime if permissions are never working or if you're not able to see these recordings. Not a whole lot's on Canvas right now. copy of the syllabus, copy of the schedule, and our Zoom link. This will fill out in the future, I think. Okay. If that's enough about the syllabus, we can start with some definitions. Let's lay some groundwork for what we're going to be talking about, our pedology terminology, if you will. First thing is what this class means in general. Okay, pedology. We have this root word ped, comes from the Greek meaning ground, so study of the ground, right? Our Latin roots of ped means more like foot. Perhaps it makes sense to be underfoot. When I think about the ped root word, though, I think of words like pedestrian, walking on foot, bipedal, pedicure. So pedology itself comes from the Greek, right? Because ology, of course, means study of. We are the study of the formation and the classification of soils. Pedology itself is one of the 5 main branches of soil science. We have soil chemistry, soil physics, soil biology, like microbial ecology, pedology, and soil fertility, I would say, is the 5th. Right, 5 main branches. And what is soil itself? Soil is not dirt. When you ask someone passionate about it like me, dirt itself as a word has a dirty origin. It comes from Old Norse, I think, for drit. It means something like filth, literally shit. Okay, it's not a good word, not something that meaningfully represents something wonderful, something beautiful that we appreciate and we classify and we characterize. The origin of the word soil itself is a little harder to trace, comes from an Old English, Latin, maybe even French, meaning something more holistic, like the ground, like the earth. Something more worthy of being appreciated and studied. There's different ways that the 2 words, I mean, hopefully they're not used interchangeably, but what's the difference? What's the use cases? I think that, like the dictionary definition or the way it was taught to me, is that dirt is just soil out of place. So if it's on your shoes, if it's on the floor, you can call it dirt. Perhaps I won't be too upset when you do it that way. I myself take a more hardline approach. I only say soil. I would prefer to have mud on my boots. I would prefer to be driving on an unpaved road if it's not gravel or asphalt. But we do have probably the most practical definition I've heard someone describe is when we're sampling it, describing it, classifying it, appreciating it, it's soil. If we're moving it from one place to another, it's like dirt. But there's some problems with what's out of place. If we're going to define dirt as soil out of place, if we have those monoliths, in the ag science lab, we took soil out of the environment and we put it on the wall. That's not where soil belongs. Are the hallways full of dirt? If you're out collecting soil samples for some chemical property assessments, you can do some lab work on them. Do you have bags full of dirt now all of a sudden? Am I doing my PhD work on buckets of dirt? Some might say. I think that's about it. I think I'm done saying the B word now for now. That's the most you ever hear me say in one lecture. But that's our definition of soil, at least from the dictionary, though. But if you ask a soil scientist what the definition of soil is, what actually is soil, can we do a little bit better than just dirt that's in place? We put a bunch of soil scientists together, and this is what we come up with. We can say soil is the unconsolidated material on the outermost layer of Earth's crust. So basically saying it's not bedrock and it's the ground. All right, the ground surface that's resulting from the interaction of climate, organisms, and topography acting on some parent material over time. That right there is going to provide weeks of lecture content for us. Talking about the interactions or the causes of soil formation, one might say. And also soil has to differ from geologic material in that it can support plant life, have some biological activity, and contain carbon. So I'm sure intuitively, just by looking around outside, we have a pretty good idea of what is soil and what's not soil, but there's always going to be some edge cases, you know. So what would we say about like beach sand, for example? Would we say that's soil?
No.
No for beach sand. You can have like weeds and plants growing on the
Kind of
beach.
need the organic matter to be already in it for it to be considered soil.
I'd say all this depends on the ocean, that soil is right in because it's not close to the ocean.
Depends on locations, exact location, perhaps. You know, if you think about the soil textural triangle that we work with in Intralab and this semester, in that bottom left corner is just 100% sand. So we could give it a soil texture classification, even if something's 100% sand. It can support plant life. So maybe I could be convinced that beach sand is soil. Beach soil.
As far as I'm concerned, it's not soil, like, until you have like organic matter. The thing. If it's sterile, if there's nothing living in it, is it soil?
If it's sterile. I think that perhaps beach sand would be sterile. You could sample it for microbes. You could get some organic carbon content from it.
That also include atoms like so out of pocket or like soil on other planets.
Absolutely, it would. Again, so if we're talking about the moon surface, if we're talking about Mars surface, there's no carbon, no biological activity currently that we're aware of would not support plant life. Soil on other planets, we more classify as regolith or regolith. I think I've got that. Yeah, right there. As an example. However, if we learn that the soil, the regolith on Mars is able to support plant life, we might have to change our definition. But we're insured anyway because, again, we specify the outermost layer of Earth's crust. So this is our Earth definition for the pedology class on Earth. I would be happy to amend this if I'm ever given the opportunity to teach a pedology class on another planet. And then growth medium, also if you have like potting soil or something from a greenhouse, maybe it's not derived from Earth's crust sediments, but rather something that's more purely organic, something more manufactured, you know. I would say that's less like soil than beach sand. A little bit about how we're going to see soils this semester. And another definition or important word to work with is a pedon. You can think of a pedon essentially as the smallest volume of soil that's large enough to represent the characteristics or the arrangement of each layer of a given soil or the soil horizons, as well as the variability of other soil properties. So in this example, with this really undulating kind of bedrock surface interacting with the soil profile, each individual pedon encompasses the range of characteristics here. So we can assume that the profile seen in any one of these sections of it is going to generally match something on the other side of like this rise here, or be repeated across these other sampling units, essentially. So the soil profile we witnessed right here in this specific section is going to be generally similar to this side of it, generally similar to something over here. So without repeating variability, you can draw these lines. Commonly, it's our unit of soil observation, sampling, or classification. For example, like the pit of the soil profile that we're examining, our soil pit face. Pedons are also three-dimensional as opposed to just a 2D profile. Even I struggle with this quite a bit. Anytime we look at a soil pit, we see like a cross-section, you know, and it's just so hard to imagine the third dimension of it. The way this bedrock surface looks to be wavy kind of up and down, it's happening in 3 dimensions. You just have to imagine what it's like under these, under the soil. So a pedon is 3-dimensional. Overall, it just encompasses the range of variability of soil characteristics in a given area. So is each one of these individual units a different soil type? Would it be described completely differently? Probably not. The specifics would be the depth, the thickness of the horizons and such. But when you see the word pedon thrown around, that is what we're talking about. This kind of unit of soil sampling that covers the range of variability of a given soil. Okay, if you put a bunch of these pedons together, you get a soil series. Perhaps a soil type of polypedon, that word has kind of fallen out of use lately, but for soil maps at least, we have a soil series of a group of similar pedons. What is a soil series? We could say it's a natural body, distinct and specified, range in characteristics. So all the similar pedons put together, soil series, you could draw a line around it on a map, on a landscape, and say this soil is going to be generally similar. For example, we have the Palouse series, our Palouse silt loam soils. Example of a soil series that you can appreciate and discuss on the landscape. And soil series become our unit of soil mapping. Soil mapping will become our topic for Thursday. Any questions about how we're starting out with soil, where we're going? Anybody want to argue other edge cases of soil versus non-soil? If not, I'm glad you all made it here today. Hopefully the photos I posted, if you haven't been to JML before, helped you find your way here. Last thing before we go, for our lab field trips, I'm very excited to welcome extra assistants, Mary Beth as a TA. She's also co-coach of the soil judging team, very capable at soil description and soil interpretations. We have a big class, bigger than I'm used to, at least this semester, so having extra help on field trips, it's gonna be a great resource. Anytime we have homework, anytime we have lab activities, she'll be around. Okay, I'll go ahead and stop the recording and we'll meet here on Thursday.